Welcome to this tutorial on maps in Kotlin. Maps are a fundamental collection type that allow you to store and organize data as key-value pairs. Think of them as a powerful way to associate related information together, similar to how a real-world dictionary maps words to their definitions. A map is a collection that stores data as key-value pairs. Each key in the map is unique, and it maps to exactly one corresponding value. You can think of it like a dictionary or a lookup table. For example, you might map country codes to full country names or student names to their test scores. The key provides fast access to its associated value. To create a read-only map in Kotlin, we use the mapOf function. Here's an example where we create a map called countries. We use the keyword val followed by the variable name countries equals mapOf with parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we define our key value pairs. We write "US," then the keyword to, then "United States." We separate each pair with a comma. Similarly, we add IN to India, JP to Japan, and FR to France. This creates an immutable map that cannot be modified after creation. There are several ways to retrieve values from a map. The most common method is using square brackets with the key. For example, countries with square brackets containing "US" returns "United States." You can also use the get method, like countries.get with "JP" in parentheses, which returns "Japan." It's important to note that if you try to access a key that doesn't exist in the map, both methods will return null instead of throwing an error. For instance, countries with square brackets "CA" returns null because Canada is not in our map. When you need a map that can be modified after creation, use the mutable function. Here we create a map called scores using val scores equals mutable_mapOf. Inside the parentheses, we define our initial key value pairs. We map "Alice" to 95, "Bob" to 87, and "Carol" to 92. Unlike the read-only map we created earlier, this mutable map allows us to add new entries, update existing values, and remove entries as needed. With a mutable map, you can add new entries or update existing ones easily. To add a new entry, use square brackets with the key and assign a value. For example, scores with square brackets "David" equals 88 adds David with a score of 88 to the map. To update an existing entry, use the same syntax. Scores with square brackets "Alice" equals 98 changes Alice's score from 95 to 98. You can also use the put method, like scores.put with "Eve", 91 in parentheses, which adds Eve with a score of 91. Removing entries from a mutable map is straightforward. The remove method deletes a key value pair from the map. For example, scores.remove with "Bob" in parentheses removes Bob and his score from the map. If you want to remove all entries at once, use the clear method by writing scores.clear with empty parentheses. You can also check if a key exists before removing it using an if statement. Write if, then in parentheses "Alice" in scores, then in curly braces scores.remove with "Alice". This ensures you only attempt to remove entries that actually exist. Kotlin provides several useful operations for working with maps. To get all the keys in a map, use the keys property like val all keys equals scores.keys. To get all the values, use the values property like val all values equals scores.values. You can check if a specific key exists using the containsKey method. Write val has Alice equals scores.containsKey with "Alice" in parentheses, which returns true if Alice is in the map. To find out how many entries are in the map, use the size property like val count equals scores.size. These operations make it easy to inspect and work with your map data.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.